In today's video, we're going to answer the question, how much food do you need to store? Hey, I'm Steve, and welcome to Prepared to Live. Today, we're going to talk about food. More precisely, dry goods storage, how much you need on hand, and how to calculate that with a very basic formula to show you what you need to do before things get tough. The first thing we need to do is throw the whole concept of servings out the window. You need to focus on calories, the things that make the body go, where we get our energy. It's calories that allow the body to perform at the optimum level so we can achieve the desired results that we need in order to provide that life that we need for our family and our friends. Let's look at an example between the difference of servings and calories. Let's go to your basic online supply store that sells shelf-stable survival food. You look at that bucket and that bucket says 150 servings. Immediately, it's easy to do the math. You take 150, you divide it by three meals a day, and you come up with 50 days worth of food, right? Wrong. That same bucket of food only contains 24,000 calories of food. So you divide that 24,000 by 2,000, and you only have 12 days of food as opposed to 50 days of food. You can see that as we begin to wage this war between calories and servings, that calories are key. You'll never have enough food if you just simply go by servings. Now, there are some online retailers like My Patriot Supply that actually does package and prepare their food at 2,000 calories per day. You need to read that and make sure you're aware before you buy it. Now, let's get into what this video is really all about. How do I know how much food that I need to have? How do I get that food, and what is that food? Let's look at a formula to calculate how much food we actually need on hand. It's a simple formula. Calories needed equals number of calories per day times our goal of days of survival. So if you need 2,000 calories per day and your goal is to survive for 90 days, that's 180,000 calories you need on hand based on 2,000 calories per day. Now, you may think that you need more than that. As a matter of fact, my recommendation is 2,500 calories of food. That's what an average military-age male needs to survive. And it doesn't matter what age or whether your family consists of men, women, boys, or girls. Go on average of 2,500 calories, because that will get you to a place where you're living in surplus, and you may even have food to barter if things get really bad. Now that we've got our shelf-stable supply of food, 90 days. Now listen, make sure when you buy that shelf-stable food that if you're looking at 90 days or 30 days, let's talk about 30 days because you're probably going to buy it in 30-day containers. Make sure that that 30-day container contains 60,000 calories. That's how much is going to be in a 30-day supply of food. Not servings, but calories. Now that we've talked about our shelf-stable survival food, let's talk about dry goods. What are dry goods? Dry goods are canned foods. They're grains, they're pastas, those things that don't need refrigeration in order to survive. When we talk about dry goods, the bulk of our survival food, the bulk of our storage needs to be in dry goods because it's protected against other things that might happen. In power failure, your freezer could go out. Dry goods consist primarily of beans, grains, and pastas. Also flour, masa, honey, sugar, salt, spices. Also powdered milk and canned goods. Let's talk about canned goods because that's what most people are used to. Especially canned meats. Canned meats are a great source of protein and will last anywhere from 2 to 5 years and still taste as good as the day they were canned. Every time you go to the store and buy canned goods, buy some extra cans. Build this store over time, but do it with purpose. And listen, only buy the things you like. If you don't like canned tuna, don't buy cans of tuna. If you don't like deviled ham, don't buy deviled ham. Buy the things you like because in a survival scenario, you need some comforts of normality. You also need to add some grains and some beans. Make sure that it includes rice and corn. Also some pasta. Pasta is really cheap and really easy to store. You can store 50 pounds of pasta for a really cheap price in a relatively small space, and that would give you pasta to eat once a week for an entire year basically. When you're talking about corn, rice, and beans, understand that when you buy those things, they probably need to be put in food safe buckets to protect them from rodents, to protect them from insects, no matter how clean the place you live. Put them in Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber, seal it, and then place it inside a food grade bucket, and you have food that will last longer than you will. You also need to make sure that you're adding flour and masa, also honey and sugar, salt and spices. These things last long term. You need to invest in those things, keep them on hand, not just enough for you to make it a week, but enough for you to make it for 6 months, for a year, whatever your goal is. Flour and masa provide calories, and they're very versatile things that can allow you to add some variety to the meals that you prepare so that you're not missing out and longing for the things that you used to have. Salt, spices, and sugar are essential in a survival setting. Those bring flavor so that we don't get bored with the food we're eating and that we can actually eat enough calories to keep ourselves going. Most of these foods will last forever. Now they may lose some of their flavor, but I'm just going to tell you that dried beans in water taste a lot better with a little salt and a little garlic, no matter whether it's lost some flavor or not. Honey is another thing that will last forever and can add some great variety to the dishes that you're preparing and create that little bit of sweetness that you need to battle that sweet tooth that we've all developed over the years. And then don't forget dried milk. With dried milk, you can prepare all kinds of doughs and batters from that flour and that masa, and also drink it. Dried milk will provide you some great calories and give you some comforts that you may not have if your only thing to drink is water. So make sure that you also include that dried milk in your storage plan. If you found this content helpful, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Also, drop in the comments right now what food that you store and what you think is the most important thing to store. Now let's go on to a natural example. Let's look at an actual example of how much food it would take for you to prep for 6 months as an individual. We're basing it off 2,500 calories a day, and then we're looking at 180 days because that's roughly a half a year. So you're going to need a total of 450,000 calories to sustain yourself during that amount of time with no external additives. And remember, we're only talking about storing dried food. In another video, we're going to talk about food production systems and how all of those things work together. So we're only looking at those things that we can store in a pantry that we can have on hand in case of an emergency. Now, let's look at a real life example of what 6 months or a half a year of food storage might look like for an individual based on 2,500 calories of food per day. So take 180 days, that's roughly a half a year, at 2,500 calories a day, that's going to be 450,000 calories that we need. Now, looking back earlier in our video, we established that we need 3 months or 90 days of that shelf-stable survival food to be able to allow our digestive system to adjust to eating foods that we may not readily eat every day. So that's going to give us 180,000 calories. So we subtract that from our 450,000 calories. Now, canned meat. If you store 150 cans of canned meat at roughly 200 calories each, you're looking at another 30,000 calories towards your goal of 450,000 calories. Then, 50 pounds of pasta will give you 70,000 calories. 50 pounds of beans, another 75,000 calories. 50 pounds of rice, another 75,000 calories. 20 pounds of flour, 20,000 calories. 20 pounds of masa, 20,000 calories. 10 pounds of dry milk, going to give you 23,000 calories. So based on just those simple foods that are easy to store, that will give you a total of 518,000 calories of food And you're saying, well, I thought our goal was 450,000 calories. Why do we now have 518,000 calories? The reason is because when you cook these foods, they're going to lose some of their caloric density. So as you cook the food, they're going to decrease in calories available, so you need to go just over your goal. Based on that, you should be able to put together a simple food storage plan for 6 months. Now remember, that's for an individual. So you need to multiply that by 2, 3, 4, depending on how many people in your family, and make sure you're getting as much of the foods that your family will actually eat as possible. If you have a family that hates rice, add more beans and no rice. If they don't like beans, add more rice and less beans. You can tailor this any way you want to. Now, I have a caloric density chart at preparedtolive.net/resources. Just navigate to the resources tab and there's a caloric density chart that will show you all of this information and show you how much calories each plant you grow in your garden or each fruit tree will produce. It's a great tool to use in planning your survival strategy. So go over to preparedtolive.net and download that free resource there. Guys, thank you so much. The things that we've talked about, I have some links down in the show notes. If you'll go down there, you can go to My Patriot Supply and some other survival needs right there in the show notes. But don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell notification. And from my family at Prepared to Live to yours, we'll see you next time.